Hey y'all, Cecile here. Welcome to Playing with Possibilities. I am joined today by my friend and colleague, Christine Gautreaux. Our friend Ade is not here with us today. Um, this space is where we talk about everything from spirituality to social justice, from being human and connecting with our ancestors to how the things that we do create our reality and how we can intentionally create our collective reality together. As I said, my name is Cecile Armstrong. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a Black woman and a self care and social justice facilitator, streaming to you from the ancestral lands of the Kicatan, colonized today as Newport News, Virginia. I'm the founder of Inspired by Indigo, an online membership community where I guide folks to let go of blame, shame, and guilt so that we can make equity a habit instead of a goal. In this community, every month we go through 4 steps together for support and to help create this habit. And that is self care, knowing your facts, undoing the work, and then resting and rejoicing. To find out more, you can click the link in the description, or if you're watching on, what was I trying getting ready to say? Just lost my train of thought. If you're watching on Facebook or LinkedIn, please follow. If you are watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and then click the bell to get notifications when we go live. All right, I'm going to hand it over to you, Christine.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker coach, published author, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself in community care. I am streaming live from the ancestral lands of the Muskogee Creek, about a mile east of the Chattahoochee River. I use she, her pronouns. And I am the co-host and co-founder of Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcasting community grounded in the 8 dimensions of wellness, where we have intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationship, and wellness, and how to do it with equity and
Yeah.
social justice.
hmm So, Christine and I were talking about what are we going to talk about today? Because we are still catching up from that long break that we had. And so we're still catching up, and I think we have some ideas. But before we do that, I think I want to take a breath. You want to take a
Oh,
breath with me?
please. Always.
Okay. All right. So I'm inviting you to sit up straight. Have your head over your shoulders, shoulders over your hips. If you're sitting up, if you're laying down, just make sure your arms and legs are not crossed. Of course, I get a spam call. All
Wait,
right.
wait. What is your ringer for spam calls?
It's girls like you. It's Maroon 5 and Cardi B.
I love girls like you. I wouldn't put it with spam calls,
It's
though. Is
just
it just your ringtone,
it's just my
period?
ringtone, and it
Oh,
just
okay.
came up for the spam call. Yeah,
Right? I love that. Okay.
yeah,
But,
not specifically for spam.
it would be hysterical if unrecognized calls. I don't know if our phones have that capability,
I
but
don't know.
if they got their own special, like, that's fun. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
that's okay. That's all right. All right, so we're sitting up straight, relaxing our bellies, giving them room to expand. Bring your shoulders down, work your jaw a little bit, move it from side to side. Close your eyes, and then take in a deep breath and just let your belly expand. You might feel it on the sides and in the back. Just take in so much air. And then exhale at your own pace, but make some noise with it. You know what? Shake out your body. Wiggle your arms and legs. We're going to take another breath and we'll wiggle ourselves out again. Take a breath in. Exhale at your own pace and make some noise and shake it out. All right. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And I needed that. Okay, so we were talking about a lot of things before we actually went live, but the thing that was really interesting to me was how are people taking care of themselves right now? Because we are being hit with like multiple things, good and bad, just a lot of things that can knock us off balance throughout the day. If you're on social media or if you're watching the news or even if you're not, somebody's telling you about stuff that's going on. And so many things are happening right now And if you're not grounded, if you are not intentionally getting in your body several times a day, it is so easy to get knocked off balance. And so I want to know from y'all, whoever's watching, if you want to type in the comments, what are you doing to maintain your balance and to stay grounded and to not get, knocked around by everything that's going on? What are you doing to stay in the present moment and to maintain your emotional balance and um, to just stay in your body? So let's talk about that for a minute. Does that sound good to you?
I think it sounds great. Yeah. In
Mhm.
addition to the news in the world, family stuff. August is
Oh
always
gosh.
a really big month
Mhm.
for transitions, like kids
Mhm.
going back to school, kids going back to college,
Yep.
adults going back to college. Like
Mhm.
the rhythm tends to change,
Yes,
right?
it does. Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but sometimes when my rhythm changes, my system's
Yeah.
whoop,
Mhm.
whoop.
Yeah, these are the kinds of things that trigger, like, people who have, like, chronic conditions. These are the kind of things that trigger, flare-ups for those kind of things.
Right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So what are
Yeah.
we doing for self-care and to bring ourselves into balance?
Yeah. So share something that you do,
I
Christine.
intentionally go outside in between Zoom meetings. I spend a
Mhm.
lot of time on Zoom
Mhm.
because I work from my home. So
Mhm.
I intentionally go outside and look at the flowers or, put my bare feet on the grass or take my dog for a walk, which total total dog mom brag. You ready
Oh,
for a total dog
yeah.
mom brag? Okay,
Mhm.
you've met Monty.
Mhm.
He's our year-old, pandemic puppy, y'all. He's half Scotty, half Corgi, and 100% stubborn. So we had a major milestone this week
What
because
happened?
he is now going to the front door and letting us know when he wants to go on a walk and sitting and waiting for us to put his leash on instead
What?
of getting the zoomies and you have to chase him for 30 minutes. Yes.
Right? Yeah, last time I
Right?
saw him, he was running everywhere when he wanted to go outside.
But he's gotten, I don't know if his brain's just developed or he's starting to realize, like, I won't take him on a walk if I have to chase him. Like, I'm like, all right, I'll be back. I'll see you later, dog. I mean, and now he's going to the front door and sitting and indicating. So that's the other thing I do is like I spend time with my dog or
Mhm.
I take him on a walk. And yeah, the outdoors is a major reset button for me.
Mhm.
And I mean, I'll confess totally, haven't gotten to go as much as I'm a kayaker and a hiker,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I haven't gotten to do some of those long trips this summer. It's been very
Yeah.
short. So
Mhm.
yeah, I need
Well,
to
you
schedule a long trip.
I was going to say, you schedule your stuff. You put everything on the calendar, so you need
Yeah.
to write that down.
Right? Well,
Yeah.
I have to because I mean, like many of you who are running businesses or working full time, and if we don't calendar it, it doesn't happen.
Mhm.
Like somebody's always going to be tugging or calling or scheduling for me or a
Mhm.
lot of the different collaborations I'm in. So,
Mhm.
it's kind of like that whole mentality about pay yourself
Pay
first,
yourself
right?
first, right.
The same thing with self-care. Like
Yes.
literally look at your schedule.
Mhm.
And it can be tricky this time of year because like I love to swim outdoors. And we're
Mhm.
in, I mean, I don't want to complain because so many places are in a drought, but in Atlanta area, we're in this afternoon, evening thunderstorm cycle, which
Mhm.
my plants are delighted about, but it's really messing with my swim schedule, right? So I need to literally look at the weather, decide when I'm going swimming and things like that, and get it calendared because
And
otherwise
I
I
like
have
to swim outdoors too,
I know you
but
do.
I have been scheduling my swimming in the morning, and so I will go to the beach, get in for a little bit, and then I come out and have my first Zoom meeting at the beach, and I'll just flip my camera so whoever I'm meeting with can watch the water while
I
I dry
love
off.
that. I have been on one of those meetings with you before, and I love that, by the way. Like, what a way to make self-care work for you while you're working.
Mhm. Yeah, and we were talking because I mean, almost all of my meetings are on Zoom. I'm hardly doing any in-person meetings right now, and I have a limit though, 3. Three is my limit. If I see more than 3 on my schedule, my anxiety kicks in and I'm already like, "Oh my god, my day is gonna be so horrible because I'm gonna be at my desk, I'm gonna be on Zoom." And so the way that I have learned to, get around feeling like that is by not being at my desk, doing the Zoom meeting on my phone and being outside. Because last Thursday, I had 4 Zoom meetings. I had already scheduled my max, and then an emergency meeting popped up, and I was like, "Ugh." So I did my morning meeting at the beach, and let the person that I was meeting with watch the water. My first afternoon meeting, I was going for a walk. And when the person that logged on with me saw that I was outside, there were trees around, they were like, "Are you going for a walk? I'm going to log off on my laptop and grab my phone and I'll walk with you." So we had a walking meeting,
Oh,
you
I
know.
love that.
Yeah, and then my 3rd meeting, I was indoors, but not at my desk. And then the 4th meeting, I actually sat at my desk because I had to take minutes.
Mhm.
But doing it that way was completely different than, when the pandemic first started, the way I used to do meetings, always sitting at my desk, at my laptop, and, I made it work for me. And so
Mhm.
that was like integrating work and self-care together, and it worked. I wasn't stressed at the end of the day. I was happy that I had been outside and in the water. I had taken a walk and been around the trees instead of, sitting at my laptop, hunched over my desk all day. Um, and so anyway, anybody who's watching, listening, I encourage you to think, what could I do? What could I do differently? Even if, because you have a standing desk, right?
Mhm. I
Even
do.
if it's standing up instead of sitting down.
Mhm. I have
Mhm,
a standing desk, which, full confession time, I haven't been using effectively because there was one time I went to stand and my cords got wonky. And
mhm,
so I kind of panicked. So I need to reset that. Like even you
mhm,
saying that, I need to recheck my system and make sure it can go all the way up and down. I love the standing desk. I
mhm.
also have one of those under the desk bicycle peddlers.
Oh,
'Cause I
cool.
love to bicycle, and
Uh-huh.
so it gets some of that going,
Mhm,
at the same time. But I was thinking when you were talking about making it work for you, this Saturday I was teaching, with a colleague, Marla Durden, and we were teaching Interplay Life Practice Program for helping
mhm,
professionals. So
mhm.
it's 6 hours online, right?
Right.
And we
Yeah,
are
I know, I've been
very
through that
you've
class.
been through that class, right? And it's very embodied and it's very fun, and it's still 6 hours in front of
Mhm,
your computer. So we were really intentional about putting in 5-minute dance breaks in
mm,
addition to our breaks.
mhm,
So, and we gave people the invitation to sit and watch or sit and move or get up and move. And most people got up and moved. And what we really noticed at the end of the day when we checked in with each other is how much better we were feeling,
mhm,
because as the organizers, we scheduled in additional movement time. And it's already a pretty active class, as you
mhm,
know. But
mhm.
even putting in that extra,
I could see how adding in that free form, not
right?
not directed movement would definitely help.
Right? And just fun. Like we were
Mhm,
really intentional with our song choices,
mhm.
and that is one of my favorite things we do in Interplay, and I do for myself is you remember the one hand dance where you
Yes.
can pick a piece of music and you can
Mhm.
just move one
Just
hand.
move one hand.
You
Mhm,
know, Phil Porter, the co-founder of one of the co-founders of Interplay, used to say that when he got really stressed out at work and at his desk, he would put on his favorite piece of music, close his eyes, and just move his hand and
mhm,
pretend he wasn't at the computer anymore. And it was like a mini vacation. And
mhm,
so that is one of the things I do when I need to be at the computer, like in between,
mhm.
I'll always get up, walk around, go outside. But
Right.
sometimes I just will put on that music,
Mhm.
bringing intentionally inviting joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I know for you,
That
like, the beach is your joy,
yes, it is.
right?
Yeah, the beach is my joy, and walking barefoot in the grass.
Mm,
I
yeah,
love that.
me
Letting
too.
just walking around and letting the earth do the work, because if
Mhm.
you let nature do the work, it will. You just have to give it the opportunity. All you have to do is show up.
The other thing I do,
Mhm,
I love reading. And
mhm,
I love reading fiction because
mhm.
I have to read a lot of nonfiction for my
Right.
work. And
Mhm,
so I don't, when I need a break, like I'll set a 10-minute timer and
mhm,
go lay down on the floor or in my bed or on the couch and just read for 10 minutes
mhm.
and not talk to people. Because
Yeah,
in my job, I talk a lot. Like I'm
yeah.
interacting and holding space for people. And
Mhm,
so that is one of the things that I found very effective. Now I have to set a timer
Yeah, otherwise you'll get lost in it. I have always been a big reader. I love to read, but what I have found, is that I don't know if it happened during the pandemic or right before the pandemic, that when I read, like, just read a regular book, I'm not comprehending as well as I used to. And
Mm.
so I have been doing a lot of audiobooks
Oh, I love
lately.
audiobooks.
And so instead of, like, reading a paperback or a hardcover copy of a book, I'm checking them out over from the library and then listening to them on my phone. And
Mm,
I've always got 2 or 3 books on my phone.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Yeah. I used to listen to a lot of audiobooks when I was commuting.
Mhm.
And, that has been one of the gifts for me in the pandemic is that I'm not commuting as much. It's
Yeah.
transitioned to Zoom or, I've got a couple of programs, but I'm organizing them where I'm not having to travel as much,
Mhm.
which is good and bad because I used to always make my phone calls at that time too. Like
Yeah.
I would be driving and I think, who haven't I heard from in a while? Or who,
Mhm.
who do I need to check in with? And I just listen and hear who needed a call and I would call them. Well, that's a problem if you're not. It's probably been 2 years since some of my people have heard from me.
Alright, we got a comment. Delilah
Right?
says, "I have to really concentrate on being aware of being more off balance because of all the stuff going on in the world. I catch
Mhm.
myself and turn my emotions around as quick as I can."
Mm. That is a great point, Delilah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because there
Mm.
is a lot of stuff going on in the world, and we
Mhm.
see it all the time, whether we realize it or not. Like,
Mhm.
our phone's going off and we just catch the headline, or,
Right.
or we're driving down the road and we see the billboard, or a phone friend called us. Like Cecile and I are doing this to each other all the time. Oh my gosh, did you see that? Did you?
Right.
It's a good and bad,
Yeah.
right? Because it's some of the
Right.
work we do in the world, but also like it's constant. Like
Yeah.
we're
Well, like,
because it
last
is
night
constant right
it is
now.
constant. Last night, because I don't look at videos, that show, like, police beatings and all that kinda stuff, and last night,
That I
I
know the one
saw
you're talking about.
okay, well, it
Yep.
popped up on Twitter saying 2 cops have been suspended, and I just hit
Mhm,
the thing just to, read the paragraph to say what were they suspended for. The video was right there, and I saw
yep.
it, and I don't usually look at those, and that was right
Mhm,
before I was going to bed, and I was like, "Ugh."
mhm.
Yeah, that so,
Right.
I knew, I felt it in my body. My whole body got tense, and my
Mhm.
chest got tight, and then I was like, "Now I'm gonna have to go through, all of my bedtime routine to
Right?
get
Or
grounded again before I go to sleep." But I looked and was like, didn't watch the whole thing, saw enough to feel triggered, and then was like, "Alright,
mhm.
I've gotta relax myself again."
Well, and speaking of that, like, what do we do to cleanse ourselves, right? Like,
Mhm,
what do we do to consciously disconnect from this?
mhm,
Because, I mean, I know people have different opinions on it, but my opinion is if you don't disconnect, like, and refuel yourself, it's going to be a problem. Like we
mhm.
have to know what's going because there's some people that are on the opposites, right? And are like, oh, I don't ever watch the news because that's negative or that. And I'm like, as a social worker, as a social justice advocate, like I'm like, come on, y'all. Come
Right, that
part of
means
part
you're
of where
that
we've gotten is because people are being apathetic and not paying
right.
attention, right?
Right, right. That apathy is what continues the problems that we have. All right, so Renita says, I'm thinking about how I can get my team of 12 to engage in a meeting outside via Zoom or a 15-minute walking meeting over a conference call. Yes, just to get them up and moving. Just thinking, yes, girl, it works. It works.
Right?
I
You
mean,
know what
most
would
of
be
my Zoom
fun?
meetings are outside. So, yeah.
Oh, you know what would be fun, Renita? Now, maybe it's just me because I'm a
Hmm.
dork and I love these things, but like a 15-minute walk with a scavenger hunt, like
Ooh,
the prettiest
yeah,
flower or and then the person gets a prize. I don't know. I'm a sucker
yeah.
for prizes. I was the kid that if you'd give me a sticker, I would.
Well, the thing about doing the Zoom meetings outside is once you have your initial, hello, and everybody can scroll
Mhm,
through and see who's there, flip your camera around so that you're looking at whatever the other person is seeing. So you get to see all the trees, or if you're at the beach, you get to see the water. Flip your camera around so it's not on your face, and everybody gets to experience a little bit of what you're seeing. So
And the
that's fun.
relaxation of it not being on, because we know Zoom
Right.
stress, and some of Zoom stress comes from seeing ourselves, right?
Mhm.
Because whether we want to, it doesn't matter how positive we are, we're like, "Ooh, look at my hair, look at that,"
Right. Right,
and
right.
so I think that
It's like,
amount
"What's
of
my
stress
lighting
goes,
like?"
right?
Yeah. Alright. So I guess Renita likes that about flipping the camera.
Right?
Alright, Delilah's got
Absolutely.
another comment. "Listening to music, going outside to enjoy my flowers, walking, dancing, reading. It's become a job to stay grounded." That is true.
Whew. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
and necessary,
Yes.
right? So we
Yeah.
can make decisions from our whole selves,
Mhm.
make
It's about
decisions
being
from,
intentional.
right?
Yeah.
And being from a place of health,
Yes.
and not just a place of being responding, being
Right.
proactive with our
Well,
health.
and
Yeah.
that's what I mean when I say intentional, because if you aren't
Mhm.
intentional about maintaining, your calm, about maintaining your space and how you wanna
Mhm.
feel and what kind of emotion you wanna bring to something, then you're gonna react to everything that's out there, and
Mhm.
what's happening within you and the way you're acting outside is not gonna be intentional. It's just gonna be whatever is triggering you to react a certain way, that's what you're gonna express.
Right.
But if you're intentional about, I wanna bring calm to this situation, or I'm gonna model joy for the people that I interact with, then you're choosing.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, speaking of intentionality, I don't think you've mentioned it yet, but last night, you led the meditations with persistence, and the
Yes.
intentionality of starting your week in a grounded, meditative, you walked us through an incredible tension release exercise that
Oh, thank
uh,
you.
by the time I was halfway through, I was ready for bed, in all transparency. But I went to
Okay.
bed last night early. I slept great, and I am going to give props to you and that
Aw, thank you.
meditation, because it's a great way to start the week. That
Mhm.
coming together with community and being intentional about, all right, yep, we don't know what this week's going to throw at us. It's already Monday noon, and there's been some things I'm seeing on the news, and I'm like,
Right.
woo,
Right.
and we don't know what's coming,
We
right?
don't.
So to
Yeah.
start with that breathing and the being intentional about being in our bodies, I think
Thank
is,
you.
yeah, magical.
Thank you. And for those of you who don't know, I'm the founder of the group Meditations for Persistence. It's right here on Facebook. And if you're on Facebook, you can go over to well, actually you can click in the description. There's a link to the group Meditation for Persistence. I remember to put that in there today. You have to answer 2 questions to join and agree to the group rules. And it's basically just want to know, how did you find out about the group and how do you participate and promote social justice. So if you can answer those 2 questions, even if you say you aren't active right now, but you're interested, you can still get into the group. And we talk about social justice and human rights during the week. And then on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, we go live. And Christine is one of my guest meditators in the group. I go live every second Sunday, and then I have 5 friends and colleagues who show up, and we take turns leading meditation. And so last night we did the tense and release. And yeah, when I was planning for last night, I was thinking about all the things that happened this past week, and I was like, even a guided visualization felt like it would have been a lot for last night. So I was like, if we just focus on tensing and releasing our muscles and pay attention to our whole body, I thought that was a good idea. So I'm glad it worked for you.
Oh, it was magical, because also, like, places that you don't I mean, always hold a lot of tension in my jaw and in my neck and shoulders,
Hmm.
but there were other places that you were having just tense and release. I was like, oh wow, I got to holding that, like, oh, but after the last 2.5 years, I think we probably have stored tension in our body that is gonna
Hmm.
we're gonna be talking about it when we're old, right?
Right.
Like,
Probably. It's in places that if you don't intentionally look for it, you won't find it.
right? We've
Mhm.
just tucked it in order to survive, and
Mhm.
yeah, and that we know that's not good for us long term.
No.
So
Yeah.
starting this process, as I guess the world is officially opened back up now with,
I
you know,
guess. I don't know for how long, though. I don't know for how long. And I will look, I know we're trying to stay light today, um, but since we're
go.
talking about the world opening up, I was reading this post from a medical researcher, and he was talking about the way we're treating the pandemic, and
Mhm.
he said that this is like the beginning of the HIV AIDS epidemic. He said when it first started, people didn't even recognize what it was, and people started with getting an illness that was like a mild flu, and it was 2 years later when the actual symptoms that we associate with HIV AIDS started showing up. And he said this right here, with everybody getting, some people getting a mild flu-like illness and some people having a severe flu-like illness and some people dying. He said this could be the beginning of a long-term thing, sort of like, HIV AIDS. And he said, and we're just allowing people to get sick multiple times. He said that the people who were sick in the first wave, some of them are now starting to show brain damage, but it didn't show up until 2 years later,
Mm.
and that just I was reading that and, my mouth is, growing open and my chest is feeling tight, and then I was like, "Well, I'm gonna continue to mask and continue not to go to places where there are a lot of people."
You're not gonna be in a
Um,
mosh pit anytime soon?
no, nope, not doing a rave, not getting in a mosh pit, and think just that honestly, that thread scared me because we really don't know what this pandemic is,
Mhm.
how it's gonna end, what the long-term effects are. There are plenty of people who have long COVID, and I don't see where our government or just society in general is supporting the people who are having these long-term symptoms or trying to prevent people from getting sick. And thinking about that is stressful, and then you gotta breathe.
Right? It really is. I
Mhm,
mean, in the midst of all of it, right?
mhm,
Because we do have to keep going and keep
mhm.
living and keep running businesses. And so, in the midst of it, it's that managed risk
Yeah.
with everything, right?
Mhm,
And this is just one really big thing on top of everything else that
mhm.
we are managing risk for.
Yeah, and it's
So,
also still about intention because I read that,
mhm,
freaked me out for a minute. I breathed and got back in my body, and then I decided that I am gonna continue to live my life, but I'm also gonna be very intentional that I'm not gonna put myself or anybody else at risk.
right?
Um,
That community care. I know that's our
yeah,
value, a shared
right.
value we have.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt me at all to wear a mask. I mean, it really doesn't.
Mhm,
And it could save me, it could save someone else, the fact that I
mhm,
that I wear a mask or that I socially distance or that I make sure that I go
mhm.
to the grocery store at times when I know it's not super crowded.
Right, or that you
So,
test on a like, I didn't feel that great this weekend, and I tested just to make
mhm,
sure. I didn't
mhm,
think but you just don't know anymore, right? And
right.
so, I think that's important. Yeah,
Mhm.
I did see the news that, at the end of August, the government's gonna stop paying for boosters,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah, and
I
it's
hadn't
gonna
seen
go
that.
to,
So
private
they really
care
are leaving it
insurance.
up to individuals to manage
To
this
individuals,
social.
and that's what I read, and,
Wow.
and I wasn't surprised when the same night or the next night, I started seeing the drug ad, um, on my Hulu or whatever I was watching
Mhm.
about getting your booster. So it was interesting
Wow.
and also just paying attention to that. So if you're
Mhm,
thinking about getting your booster,
mhm.
now's a good time to do it before the end of the month because what I read said August 31st. I don't know if that's set in stone or not, but that was what I read last week.
Okay. Ah,
So,
thank you. That's
yeah, it
I
was a
want
fantastic meditation, wasn't it, Delilah? Whew, yeah, Joe and I it really enjoyed it. It was good.
awesome.
So,
Alright, friend.
I wanted to add one more thing because I
Okay.
know it's part of your and I's practice.
Mhm,
And I was thinking about it this morning because I went to the chiropractor to get an adjustment, and they have
mhm,
a new receptionist. And she is a delightful, just bubbly, like her spirit is just amazing. And we started talking, and she's an artist.
mhm.
And I was just thinking about, we had a lovely discussion about art and scheduling more art into our day.
Mm,
And
mhm.
I was just thinking about that because that is one of the things I know both of us use
Yeah.
to bring ourselves back is art.
Mhm.
And it can
And I
be
need to
social
schedule more.
justice art. I do too. So I'm saying this out loud on Meditations for well, we're on the wrong.
Playing with
We're playing with
possibilities.
possibilities. Where are we today? It's Monday. Um, so I can show up next week and we can talk a little bit more about art
Maybe
because,
maybe we'll both have a piece done and we can show it.
oh, oh, look,
We can
now
do a
she's
tiny
throwing
piece and then
down. Now
yeah,
she's throwing
yeah,
down.
it's a
Look,
challenge.
you know what I have in front is I have a tiny piece that we did together on
Oh,
a
yeah.
Zentangle that you led me through at Alternate
That
Roots.
was last year. That was a
It
year
was
ago.
last year, right? And it
Yeah.
sits in front of my computer. Yeah. So
Nice, nice.
very fun. And that is
Yeah.
something I love to do on Zoom meetings too,
Mhm,
is if I'm not leading, is do art while I'm
mhm.
listening.
Well,
So
I definitely am somebody who likes to doodle or, write, just make shapes or whatever. It helps me to focus. I know some people are
me
like, "Then
too.
you're not paying attention," but I
No.
actually pay attention better if I can doodle while I listen.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Because if I'm not
yep.
doodling, if I don't have those things going on, I can tell you I'm not with you. I'm out in the
Right.
backyard daydreaming about but if
That's
I'm
me.
doodling and my body's here, then I'm listening to you. Same thing,
Right. That's me
right?
too. That's me
Yeah.
too. Yep.
So
It's all about how you show up and what it takes for you to stay present.
right. So
Mhm.
grateful for this conversation and for you
Me
today, my
too.
friend.
Me too. I'm grateful for
Oh,
you too. Thank you. All right. Well, I guess I will see y'all next week, right?
right. Yeah, join us on Sunday night or
Join us
Monday.
on yeah,
Super
Sunday
fun.
night in Meditations for Persistence or every Monday at 11:50 right here in on Playing with Possibilities.
Right.
So sending
Dance it
y'all
out of
fierce
here.
love like always. Dance it out. Even when we don't have music. Dance it out.
You know, on Women Connecting Wisdom, we've got a new dance move, and I call it
What?
the Zoom shoulders.
Oh. Well, it totally makes sense because I don't
Right?
know if you saw me though while we were talking today. Several times I was
Right?
like stretching
I
my
know, I
shoulders
felt
out.
it. I was like, "Oh, because 'cause we've already been at the computer since it we're on meeting number 2. You've only got
Right.
1 more left."
Right, right. On Mondays, I try not to have anything but these 2 things. I had the Manifesting Monday meeting, and then I go live. I try not to put another one on Monday if I can help it.
Right? Good
All right.
scheduling day.
We'll
All right,
see
y'all.
y'all next week.
Have a great
Fierce
week.
love, fierce love.